Well, good morning and welcome to a very blustery gale force Elie. So I've come to Elie Harbour this morning. I'll turn round and I'll lift the camera up so you can see. And what I've tried to do is, we've just finished with Storm Dudley and Storm Eunice yesterday, and it's caused havoc all over the UK. But this morning I thought I'd come over to the east coast because the forecast was looking kinda, it didn't say nothing about these gale force winds, so hopefully it doesn't interfere too much with the mic. But I'm here primarily to try and get a sunrise for the Elie Lighthouse. So join me this morning and let's see where the journey takes us. Well, I'm hoping the wind, and it's really strong and it's really cold. I mean, I haven't kind of felt this cold even in the mountains when it's -8. This wind and the chill factor for the wind's cutting. So what I'm doing is I've set up a composition for the Elie Lighthouse, and what I'm trying to do is get the sunrise in the background. We've got a beautiful backdrop because you can see the snow and all the Pentland Hills over across the Firth of the Forth in Edinburgh. So I've focused in on the lighthouse. I'm also trying to time it so that I can get the light on this side of the lighthouse. So I've managed to get the light. So I am doing bracket exposures at the moment. I'm using exposure compensation just because I haven't had any time to put any filters on yet. Only because it's so cold. And when I'm having to have, so because it's so windy, I'm kind of scared that if I have a longer shutter speed, it'll actually make my shots blurry. So I've got a fast shutter speed where I've set my shutter speed up to 500th of a second, and my ISO's way up. So I'm up at 800 ISO and I'm at f8 at the moment, hence why I'm doing the bracket the exposure compensations. I've just dropped the ISO down a bit. I'm just checking that's on manual. So I'll just go back through my images. I'm just trying to make sure. Yeah, I've got a cracker there with the light. And because it is so windy, it doesn't matter about freezing the water. In fact, I'll need to go into a cove if I want to do a long exposure with the water because the wind's far too strong. So what I'll do now is I'm just going to take a couple of photos round about me, some probably towards Edinburgh, because the moon's still out and it's a really nice pinky glow. And I can see the Bass Rock out in the North Sea there in the Firth of the Forth. And I've got Elie Harbour behind me. So I've come down to the beach, and what I've noticed is there's a bridge going up to the lighthouse. So what I've done is the sun is rising behind the bridge, but the sun's not come up far enough yet. So I've actually got quite a nice silhouette. So focused in on the bridge, I've got the lighthouse on the top right hand side, and I'm using this rock as foreground interest. And what I've done is I've taken 5 exposure compensations just so that I can blend the sky in, and it could be quite a nice image. But what I'll do now is I'm going to focus in on the bridge and use the bridge in my image. So I'm focusing just now 200th of a second shutter speed. I've got f20 and I've got ISO 640. And the reason I've got f20 is I was trying to see as the sun was peaking up to see if I could get a starburst. So the sun's coming up now. Yeah, the sun's just peaking up just now. And as I turn round, the sun's really lighting up the harbour. So what I'll do is, once I've grabbed this shot, because the harbour's all lit up, all this side of the beach is really dark. So there's a really nice contrast between the dark beach immediately in front of me and the harbour in the background. It looks nice and warm as opposed to this cold blue dark view. So let me take this shot just to see if the sun's really starting to kick up. Right, so that's a nice image. Alright, so what I'm trying to do here, I've come up to the higher elevation, but as I've been walking up, what I've noticed is the path that goes up to the lighthouse, and it's got quite a nice zigzaggy leading line. So it's a zigzaggy down across the bridge and then up to the lighthouse. What I'm trying to do is get the composition in such a way that I've got a leading line in for the bottom left hand side of the image that takes you up, and then you want to walk up the path to the lighthouse. So I've got ISO 200, f11 and 50th of a second, and that's quite nice. I've set it to panorama, I've set it to portrait because I wanted to see what the different options I've got for compositions, because I've got the path coming in from the bottom left hand side that helps me lead up, but from a full size portrait view actually might be a nice image in a square format, so I might be able to crop that. So what I'll do is I'll turn the camera back around to landscape. Now from a compositional point of view, what I'll do is I'll put the lighthouse in the top right hand side. I don't need to change my focus because it's already focused. My settings should be exactly the same. And let me just double check. Yep, that's quite nice. The scenery that I can see over the Forth and over to Edinburgh, and then the snow and the hills is absolutely stunning. So we might put the long lens on and see what images we can get with the snowy hills. And we've still got a moon. So I've got this shot. What I'll do is I'll move further to my left and see if I've got compositions on the left hand side. Alright, so I've come up to the rocks behind the lighthouse, just to see if there's any kind of different compositions, and also to try and shelter out the wind. What I'll do is I'll turn the camera around and you get an idea of the kind of terrain and the environment of what I'm in, and hopefully you're not going to be blinded by the sun there. So yeah, so what I'm going to try and do is probably not going to last very long, but the moon, I don't know if you'll be able to see, the moon is over here. So what I'll try and do is I'll try and catch the last remnants of the moon and see if it'll turn out to be quite a nice shot. So let me get this image and then we'll see what other compositions we've got around the lighthouse. Okay, so I've come up to the back end of the lighthouse, and to be honest, it's not really, it's just the back end of the lighthouse. It's not exactly picturesque in any way. However, what is picturesque is I found a reflection of the lighthouse in this water here. So I've set the camera up in portrait mode. I've got a 50th of a second f11 and ISO 100, and what I'm doing is I've focused in on the reflection. I'll take the shot, and it's a nice shot, but I think what I might find is that the composition's probably more interesting at the reflection side than the back of the lighthouse. And then I'll start to move forward towards the ladies' tower. I'm kind of walking along, I was going to say beach, so it's all volcanic rock, so there's pockets of sand in between the rocks, but this area between Elie's Lighthouse and Ladies Tower is called Ruby Beach. And the reason this is the real Ruby Beach, because as you park up and you walk round, there's a sandy beach, and that's called Ruby Beach, but that's actually called Woodhaven Beach. But this is Ruby Beach, and the reason it's called Ruby Beach is because, I suppose, because of all the volcanic activity. You don't find rubies, but what you do find is kind of dark red stones. Well, they're not stones, but dark red garnets, and those garnets are ruby red. So it is said that you can still find them, and sometimes if you pick up clumps of sand or you're walking along, you'll see a glint. But they're not real rubies, they're just garnets. But at the same time, I'm keeping my eyes fixed to see if I'm able to spot some. But you never know. So that's why this is called Ruby Beach. And the official Ruby Beach is in between Elie Lighthouse and Ladies Tower. So I've set up a composition here where I've got a leading line straight towards the tower. I've got a puddle of water in front of me, but there's so many undulations right in front of me, and they're all lit up nicely with the sun, because the sun's way over on my far right here. So what I'm doing is I'm setting up the composition just now. I've got the pool of water in my foreground. I'm just going to tweak it so I've not got too much sky with the tower, because this is probably going to be ending up being a better portrait shot. I'm going to focus into the centre of the image, because I'm at f11 anyway. 200th of a second shutter speed and ISO 400. Take that shot, and then what I'll do is I'll turn it around into portrait mode, because that could make quite a difference to the image, only because of the lens that I'm using. And you know, it's really good not having that crazy wind hitting me. It's windy, but it's not as severe and as tense as it is the other side of the lighthouse. Right, so let's keep going and keep working our way to Ladies Tower and see what else we can find along the way. So we've arrived at the edge of the beach leading up to Ladies Tower, and to be fair, it's quite, when I say spacey looking, or volcanic rocks that are on the beach. So what I'm trying to do is, there was a woman or someone standing inside it a wee minute ago. I was kind of hoping they'd still be there, and then we'd get some shots of them inside looking through the window. So I'll set up a couple of shots here before I start climbing down onto the beach. But I'm still at 200th of a second. Well, there's someone in the window now. If they could just move forward a wee bit and then it'll be slap bang square in the centre of the window, that would be perfect for us, because that would give us a sense of scale, and I don't think that's going to happen. come to the edge of the rock pool here in front of the tower, and it's actually really nice. I've got some amazing light on these on the sand in front of me in the pool, and then I've got the bigger pool in front of me, and then we've got the leading line up to the rocks. And as I'm turning right, I've just seen the man-made cave. Oh, brilliant. And it is very much a man-made cave. It just looks like a shelter. So I'll show you that now I've spotted it. So the composition here is I'm using the rocks at the foreground as a kind of frame, because I've got that little small beach in front of me before a big rock, and then I've got the big pool in front of that, and then that leads us up to the tower. So I'm using a 20th of a second shutter speed, I'm using f11, I'm using ISO 100. I focused in the centre of the image. I'll take that shot. So what I'll do is I'll just move round a bit, and I'll try and use the big rock that's protecting that camera, Lady's Tower, use that to frame the image and try and get a shot of the sea, and then we've got an island straight in front of me, and I can't remember the name of the island, but what I'll do is I'll put that up on screen now. Right, so what I'll do is I'm just going to move my camera around, and I'll see what composition we can get looking out to sea. Alright, so let's take a wee walk up to this cave and see if we can have a wee nosy inside and see what it looks like. So I'm just moving into the shade, so let me stop and adjust the ISO so we can see. Alright, and there we have it. So there's this cave there. Very nice. Very good. Right, I might take a picture. Well, we're inside the Lady's Tower, and what I'm going to do is I'm using there's a big window that we tried to use earlier to get that person to walk in front of, to give us a kind of centered scale, but that wasn't to be. So I've set up the window as a frame, and I'm looking down towards the lighthouse, and behind the lighthouse there's an oil rig on the top left hand side. I don't know if we'll be able to see that in the image. So what I'd like to do is, I've got my shot and it's a really nice shot, but I'm going to do some bracket exposures because it's really dark in here, because I'm focusing outside and I'm looking at the bright white lighthouse. I've had to set my exposure for the whiteness of the lighthouse, which has made the frame of the bricks really dark in here. So I've just used the exposure compensation, and that takes me up a couple of stops so that I've got the shadows and the highlights from the bricks, and then I can merge the two together, and that should make a really nice image. I'm actually just going to zoom through the window and see if I can get just the edge of the bricks to frame an image for me, where I've got the lighthouse and the oil rig, which will be closer. I'm just going to adjust my focal range, take the shot, and again that could be quite a nice image. Do you know, it's turned out really nice and beautiful today, so well, this morning so far. Right, so what I'll do is I'm going to look, I might there's some nice textures in the walls with the bricks. So what I might do is I might take some shots of the textures of the bricks. If I do, I'll share those with you. But I'm going to look through each of the 3 windows and I'll see if I can frame a composition out of the 3 windows, and then I'll share that image with you. I was walking along the path, I was setting the camera up because I seen a nice composition of the lighthouse, the path on the right hand side and the oil rig. I've set up that camera, I've come back and there's someone walking along the path. So I'll tell you what, I'll set up the composition and then we'll have the composition ready, and when that person goes past then I'll take the shot. I might add them in actually because it's quite nice. So I've actually used the polarizer, and what I've done is the shot I had, the sun was really strong on the side of the lighthouse, but as I've turned the polarizer round, it's given me depth in the sky, but it's also darkened the shadows in the lighthouse. So the lighthouse is nice and white, and it's actually a really nice composition this, because the paths I'm using the paths as the leading line from the bottom right hand side, and the paths are channeling actually in between those benches and the lighthouse, and we've got the oil rig in the background, and the light that I can see through the viewer looks stunning. So fab, let's move on. You know, I've been walking along the path and I've been taking shots as I've been walking along, and because the weather has improved so much, the sky with the blue sky is absolutely stunning. So I spotted this wee composition as I was walking, where I've got the lighthouse and the lighthouse's bridge, but it's framed with these 2 rocks and there's a gap in the rock. So what I'm going to try and do is see if I can get a nice composition here through the rocks of the lighthouse and its bridge. I'll just zoom in on the bridge there, take that shot. I've got a 40th of a second f11 ISO 100. That's really nice. I've got some highlights on the side of the whiteness of the lighthouse, so I've underexposed so I can keep those highlights, because if I'm just double checking, yeah, I've got no highlight clippings in that image, so I can merge those 2 together so it's not blown out all the detail in the white of the wall of the lighthouse. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to zoom in further through the rock and I'll get that. I'm just adjusting the polarizer to make sure, because the polarizer's doing a nice job in the sky, but I just want to make sure it's giving me extra shadows and depth in the lighthouse itself. So I have to refocus because I had to change my focal length. So I'll take that shot and let me just double check. Yeah, that's a nice image. That's a really nice image actually. Alright, so we'll keep moving and let's see what more we can find. Oh, right, I've come to the edge of the beach because this is all volcanic rock that I'm standing on, and what caught my eye was the sand here and the kind of snake S shapes in the sand. So what I thought I'd do is I'm going to focus in on the sand first. I'm just going to increase my shutter speed for some light. Oops. So I've got 25th of a second, f11. I'm just adjusting my composition because I'm going for a kind of close up here, a wee bit more creative, and see how that turns out. And then the bay that I have in front of me looking across to Edinburgh is pretty special because there's a lot of clouds coming in now, because the forecast I didn't realise there was going to be heavy winds like there were this morning, but the forecast for this afternoon is to be snow. So yeah, it's actually quite a really nice location. There's just so much. It's so busy. So the other thing I'm looking for is a series of square concrete pillars, and I'll take shots. If I find them, I'll take shots and I'll add them onto the video. But the reason I want to take shots of the pillars is the pillars have got quite a lot of significance back to World War II, because the Polish army set and made the pillars here as invasion defence systems against the Germans in the World War II era. So, and the Polish army actually put those invasion defence systems all across the east coast of Scotland. So you walk past them not thinking anything of it, and now you know what's behind it. It's actually quite special. And I'm losing the light because we're having a quick thick band of cloud moving towards us. So what I'll do is I'll move closer to the beach and we'll see if we can get other compositions. Alright, so I'm just walking along the edge of the beach just to see if there's any areas of interest. So I think I'll wrap up the video here. So thank you very much for watching. It's been a nice visit to Elie Beach and Elie Harbour this morning to see Elie Lighthouse, Elie Tower and Ruby Beach. It's a beautiful location. It was just a shame we had those gale force winds and it was freezing cold this morning, but hey ho, we managed through it. I haven't seen Willie. Willie doesn't like being in camera, so I don't know where Willie's went, but I'll hook up with him at some point. And thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do, you know it's free. And if you press the bell notification, that'll let you know the next time I post a video. So thanks very much for watching, and here's to the next video.